Moo Moo Meadows is one of the most iconic courses in all of Mario Kart, and with the brand new Mario Kart World introducing one of the craziest new playable characters of all time,
you can play as a fucking cow!
What the cow? I can play.
Wait, you can join the cow?
you can play as the Moo Moo Meadows fucking cow.
This is so fucking fire.
The community was very quick to make sure that the leaderboards for the Moo Moo Meadow time trials only consisted of the glorious cow. Then, one night in a Discord VC with some mates, a few of us took to the course ourselves to see how we'd rank if we gave it a crack. And after a couple attempts, I thought to myself, I wonder if I can make it onto that leaderboard. Okay, let me just set a few things straight. I am by no means a Mario Kart pro. Like, yeah, I've played a lot throughout my life, but I've never really done time trials before, and I don't know any crazy tech or anything like that. And secondly, I didn't even consider turning this into a video until after 2 days of attempts. It was originally just something I was doing for fun at first. So whilst I don't have the exact footage from the first 2 days, I still very vividly remember the process and what improvements I made. Now, very quickly before we get into things, for those who might not know, time trials in Mario Kart are very different from regular races, in the fact that you're only given 3 mushrooms for the entire course to beat it as fast as possible. No bullet bills, no enemies spamming you with items, just purely trying to complete 3 laps as fast as possible. So let's see how things looked on our first day of this journey. So like I mentioned earlier, it all started in a Discord VC, where we all just wanted to run some quick time trials to see how quickly we could beat the map. At the time, the world record was just a few milliseconds above the 2-minute mark, and had some crazy tricks to pull that off. And of course, the leaderboards were completely consisting of cows. God, it's so beautiful. But with my basic ass first casual attempt, I didn't pull off any cool tricks and just followed the road and tried to stick as close to the edge as possible and pull off some good drifts. Now unfortunately, the game doesn't keep track of your time trial progress, and neither was I at the time, but I'd say I probably landed around the 2-minute 20-second mark. Knowing I could improve that time, I decided to keep going and started to learn the map a bit better. I have an image showing that I managed to score myself a 12-second 14-minute .555 with just basic clean driving skills. However, it wasn't enough. I then decided to take a look at the world record ghost to see what crazy strats they were doing to be able to shave off a whole 14 seconds from what I was doing. And apart from the expected crazy optimized drifting, snaking on straights, and extreme tight turns, I learned about a trick that I will be calling the jump. Now, I didn't give it much attention at the time because to me, it just looked like another one of those crazy impossible jumps I've been seeing everyone on Twitter do, which just seemed impossible to pull off. But I knew I had to at least try, seeing as it was without a doubt the biggest time save if pulled off correctly every 3 laps. Now, in hindsight, I really should have paid more attention to the world record ghost, and maybe watched it a couple of extra times, because the only thing I understood from the trick is that you had to charge a straight drift and use your mushroom to jump over this ledge and avoid this entire turn of the map. But I didn't know where to do it, I didn't know what angle to take, and I didn't even realize how crucially important this tree is to the trick. I at the time was just trying to leap over this grass patch, which took many attempts to master, only to start scratching my head at how the actual people were managing to leap so high to not only avoid landing in the grass, but to also clear the fence that blocks the road, seeing as it causes a huge time loss to knock it over and get back on the road yourself. But it was actually still slightly faster to do my scuffed version of the jump than to take the big corner turn, and after maybe around an hour and a half of attempts that night, I ended on a respectable 209.373. Without realizing it, returning back to see if I can improve my score from the previous night would trigger the addiction switch that turns this simple concept into an absolute nightmare of a grind. Again, I didn't know I was going to turn this into a video at the time, so I don't have actual footage of attempts, but I pretty much remember exactly how it went. A lot of the night was spent learning a lot of micro time saves, such as realizing you can somehow trick over these 2 little grass patches, which gives extra boost every time you land, as well as the importance of picking up these 4 coins over the course of the first 2 laps, seeing as coins ever so slightly increase your speed and can add up to quite significant time saves. Obviously, those things aren't too hard to learn, but the main thing for today was to properly learn the jump, and to stop using my half-assed version that was clearly suboptimal. Upon another watch of the world record ghost, which was... wait, Donkey Kong? Oh, hell nah! Bro thinks he's part of the team? Get out of here. This ain't Donkey Meadows. How dare you ruin a perfect utopia of a leaderboard. Now I have to improve to get Cow back up there. Anyways, ignoring the new DK record and watching the top Cow ghost made me realize that I was jumping way too far to the right and actually had to go more to the left and maybe grind on the fence to trick off it. But for some reason, after many attempts of trying to snap onto the fence to grind, the Cow would either just knock it over, completely overshoot it, or literally start driving on it without out the grinding, preventing me from being able to jump off it and clear the fence blocking the road. I was kinda stumped and didn't know what I was doing wrong. That was until we watched the record ghost again. It turns out you're not supposed to go on the fence at all. You couldn't even grind on it if you tried. No, actually what you're supposed to do is to get your cart to touch the right side of the tree, which initiates an automatic wall bounce off it, which gives off the crazy height to hurdle the fences. It all started to make sense now, but that by absolutely no means meant it was going to be an easy trick to master. Attempt after attempt after attempt, I failed so many times. But then I finally managed to hit it. This crazy stupid trick was actually possible, and I just couldn't believe how ridiculous this game is for this to be possible. The more I tried it, the more I was successfully hitting it as well. Now, I was by no means consistent, but all I needed to do now was practice. The best run I got by the end of the day was a 2:04.986, which consisted of me pulling off the jump 3 out of 3 laps, which took absolutely forever to pull off, but was super satisfying when I did. Overall, I was still quite messy throughout the trial, but it was very good progress. Now today's the day I realized I wanted to go headfirst into this Moo Moo trial and make a video out of it. So from now on, all my PBs were recorded. Throughout the day, I had quite a few micro PBs, which was nice, starting with a 2:04.806, which slightly beat the previous record, but I still lost a lot of time from the second and third lap, snapping me to the fence after the jump, which is slightly slower than landing on the ground because you miss this ledge that can be drifted onto and tricked off, alongside missing a coin, but overall it was still a super satisfying PB, because at this time, I was still by no means any good at finding a consistent way to even hit the jump. So whenever I did it on all 3 laps, it was super satisfying. It honestly felt like a coin flip on whether I was gonna fuck it up or not, but the fuck-ups felt more like a 75% chance. Soon we then moved into a 2:04.443, in which I did actually manage to successfully hit all 3 jumps again, but lost a lot of time to constantly hitting the off-road during my drifts. And then a little bit later, we finally crossed the sub 2 minute 4 second mark with a 2:03.575. Go, 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 go! Please! Oh, hell yeah!
Let's go! Oh, dang!
Oh my
You're like
God.
deep into the freeze.
That was a big fucking save. This one was also quite clean with the jumps, but I was again losing time to dumb things, like accidentally drifting the wrong way after landing and not being able to trick off the mole bumps on the second lap. Which, can I just point out, the tricking in this race is so confusing to learn. Like, you've got the first ramp, which is easy, but then you got the jump, which is obviously super hard to learn, and if you trick in the wrong direction or on the wrong angle, it messes everything up. Then you need to drift onto this ramp and trick off that. Then there's those 2 grass patches that you can jump off, which each have vastly different timings to each other. And then there's the mole bumps, which sometimes seem impossible to trick off. Like, every trick in this race requires slightly different timing to each other, which is just so confusing to remember and would constantly throw me off. And if you mistime one of these tricks, it obviously means you land without a turbo boost, which is just such a huge time loss. And yeah, like I just mentioned, this is definitely most brutal on the jump, because I'd failed that so many times because I wasn't tricking correctly. Thankfully, I figured out after hours of attempts that tricking to the left after your initial jump greatly increases the success rate of hitting the tree and hurdling the fence. The day then ended on a pretty successful run where I managed to nicely execute the jump, all 3 laps, and even somehow managed to get both of these coins on the ramp on my first lap. This was a super rare occurrence that would almost never happen and wouldn't be in any of my other PBs from memory. However, that slight speed boost must have done something, seeing as we ended the night on a 2:03.501. Now, despite not being perfect by any means, I was getting a lot more consistent with the jump and other small things, like drifting and tricking from the ramp, timing the tricks on the grass patches, as well as tightly turning this last corner to get an orange spark. However, I was still messing up on the mole bumps on the second lap, and overall improvement would be quite difficult if I didn't totally change the way I played. Now, on all the top runs for Moo Moo Meadows, the runner would always get much better drifts than me and do them a lot more consistently. Like, on this first turn, I'd only be able to achieve a full rainbow spark 1 out of 100 times, but would still mess it up because I turned too much. Whereas the people on the leaderboards would get it super early. They'd also do 2 drifts before this jump, whereas I'd only do 1. They managed to somehow get rainbow sparks after this ramp where I can only get orange, and they then start to snake drift at the final straight towards the finish line. Overall, these extra and more efficient drifts were essential to shaving off time, but I just had no clue how they were getting rainbow sparks so much quicker than I was. That was until I discovered what I'm gonna be calling jiggle drifting. Now, I'm not gonna look up what the proper Mario Kart nerdy term for this tech is called, but basically, as I'm drifting, if I aggressively and rapidly shake the joystick while still maintaining control of my direction, you get mini turbos so much faster than just slightly adjusting your drifts. This was absolutely key to improving, because not only does it provide drifts faster, but the boost you get from the 2 possible rainbow drifts makes such a significant difference over the course of 3 laps. With this newly learnt jiggle tech, I managed to pull off my best run so far, which by the end of the second lap had me 0.8 seconds ahead of my ghost. However, due to me just finishing my morning coffee and having an insane amount of pressure on me to potentially get one of the biggest time saves yet, my heart was pounding out of my chest, which unfortunately caused me to mess up the jump and fumble an amazing PB. But that was okay. Learning how to optimize my drifts made such a huge difference. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to pull off the snaking on the final straight, because whenever I tried it, I'd end up losing so much time and just wasn't able to ever pull it off effectively. I even looked up a snaking tutorial for World, of which there wasn't any, as well as a short which told me that snaking actually loses time, which just confused the hell out of me because all the top racers were doing it here. Maybe I'll learn that another day. Anyways, after many attempts, I then managed to finally get a new PB with my new drifting skills, where pretty much the only mistakes I made was getting a blue instead of an orange drift here on lap 2, not drifting off this ramp, and messing up some tricks right at the end of the 3rd lap. However, it was still a massive improvement, shaving 0.8 seconds off our previous PB with an amazing 202.653. Now, my actual day 5, I took a break from the Meadows and just pushed it back to the next day. But seeing as I took an over 24-hour break, upon checking the leaderboard again, I was shocked by the amount of people who had somehow gotten the old record of 2 minutes all the way down to 1 minute 58.6 seconds. And worst of all, Donkey Kong was still on top, overshadowing all the cows. This was bad news. However, I was certainly curious to see what they were doing to knock off a whole 2 seconds from the old record. But before we see this crazy new trick, this video is actually sponsored by myself. At the moment, I'm trying some new things and have taken on FORTNITE map creating. And to celebrate my newly published map, I'm running a competition with a chance for you to win a 13,500 V-Buck prize. Keep watching to find out how to enter. But basically, it's a typical red vs blue style map, but with some cool unique features, such as custom power-ups, custom prizes, a ranking system, custom crosshairs, a leveling system, and more. And as far as the competition goes, whoever is the first person to reach level 100 with the in-game level system and submits proof to me wins. A random amount of XP is rewarded every minute for playtime, as well as every kill you get towards the opposing team. Your levels will also save between plays, so you don't need to do it all in one sitting. And for more information on the competition and how to submit proof, please head over to Instagram and follow FORKKnife_red vs blue with the Miku icon. Seeing as I have a post explaining everything in thorough details over there that you can check out. But yeah, get your mates together or verse other random players on my map for a chance to win. My code is right here on screen and I hope you all try it out. Anyways, let's see what crazy tricks this Donkey Kong pulls off to save so much time. What the actual f***? Yeah, this trick is about as ridiculous as it looks. Now, if you thought the jump was hard, this is on another level. No, like actually. I swear, jumping onto and off this wall to land back on top of the ramp without either just sliding off or straight up knocking over the fence actually made me want to pull my hair out. I could not pull off this stupid trick for the life of me. I think I maybe did it 3 or 4 times after a couple hundred attempts. But that's not even the whole trick. You still then need to jump from the fence perfectly to the left to bounce off this cow to get an extra coin every lap, and then also be positioned correctly enough so you can bounce perfectly back onto the fence, jump off it, and drift back into the rest of the race like normal. Like, literally, how do people do this? I can't even do it once, let alone once every lap. I think after an hour and a half of attempts, I pulled off the wall jump and cow bounce once, but then fell too short to reach the fence again. And this actually just wasn't even fun to practice like any of the other tricks as well. It was genuinely miserable. It was at this point I realized that the Moo Moo Meadows meta was growing way faster than I was improving, and that getting onto the top 10 leaderboards was most likely a losing battle. However, that wasn't going to stop my grind. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get any new PBs today, but tomorrow was certainly going to be interesting. With the updated leaderboard daunting me with runs exclusively using this new first turn fence trick, I didn't really know what to do. So I decided to just erase those records from my mind and just focus on one thing, improving my route and getting better PBs. Two flaws I managed to point out in my own runs pretty quickly is that I'd start my straight drift way too early, which made me lose a bit of my boost from this ramp trick. I'd also quite frequently land after a trick and then jump to start a drift, as opposed to holding down the drift button mid-air and buffering it, which would start it as soon as I land. If I managed to fix both of these issues, there would definitely be time saved. However, there was another issue at hand, quite literally, because by now, both of my hands were actually extremely sore from playing so much. Like, the chicken wing part looking of both of my thumbs were actually aching so bad, which I partially think has a lot to do with my constant aggressive jiggle drifting that I'd have to execute multiple times a lap. So I was curious how using other controllers would treat me. Moving from the Switch 2 Joy-Con to the Pro controller, whilst was a lot more comfortable to hold, made it so much harder to hit rainbow drifts because of how much bigger and wider the joystick is. Not to mention the noise difference between the two. I was then curious to see how sideways Joy-Con would treat me, and somehow I managed to hit the jump 6 times in a row. Like, what? Whilst it might not be obvious, I would still mess up the jump at least 1 out of 4 times, so I actually couldn't believe how well I did with the single Joy-Con. But I obviously didn't stick to this method because, I mean, it's a sideways Joy-Con. But then I also gave tilt controls a try, and, well, I'll let the footage explain. Yeah, we're going back to double Joy-Con. I then decided to give the stupid fence strat another good hour of attempts just to see if I wasn't locked in yesterday. And the only time I actually managed to hit this stupid trick, I end up somehow flipping the wrong way off the fence. Oh my god, yeah, nah, this trick is actually just evil. Another funny thing that happened today is I somehow got a perfect time matchup with my ghost on a lap, which hadn't happened yet. And by now, you're probably thinking, where are the PBs at? Well, get ready to be bombarded with them because after hours of constant failure and fuck-ups, I finally managed to start seeing some improvement. Starting off with a nice 202.572, followed up by a run that was a 1/7 of a second ahead of my ghost after the second lap that I unfortunately fumbled by not tricking off the grass here. No! No! Which, yeah, was really annoying. But that was okay because then came a 202.419, right into a 202.371 only 10 minutes later, then into a 202.322 only 15 minutes later. I was on a roll, and although it's always exciting getting a new PB, I couldn't help but realize these time saves really weren't that substantial. Since day 4, I've only been able to shave off 1/3 of a second, and with the world record improving every day with me falling behind, my goal of reaching the top 10 leaderboard seemed far too unachievable with how little time I had remaining. There was also that stupid fence trick and so many other small optimizations that were just too precise for me to master. Now, whilst you might think I was feeling defeated at the time, I actually didn't really care. My goal and focus on reaching the leaderboard actually started to fizzle away, and all I really cared about was seeing myself improve. Getting a new PB always felt so rewarding, like you've just taken a crazy shot of dopamine. I was actually just having so much fun trying to improve myself and not caring about what the top runners were doing. And by now, I had changed my goal for these last few days from getting onto the leaderboard to just getting at least a sub 202. And whilst I may only have 322 milliseconds to knock off my record, it would still be one of the most excruciating tasks I ever had to complete. After many more hours of attempts, that night in a VC, I managed to pull off a new PB. However, I was quite disappointed in the potential it had to finally crack the sub 202. Oh my god, if I didn't fucking hit- wait, hang on. Please.
Keep going, you have a chance, you have a chance.
Okay, it will be PB, but it could have been so much better. Oh my god, I fucking hit the off-road twice. Oh, so close to sub 02. And then, this is when the hysteria of the whole situation started to kick in. I had been stuck in these stupid meadows for almost the past week, putting myself through the same track over and over again, to the point where my hands were physically hurting from playing too much. And not only that, for some reason my mates in VC, who had been spectating 50% of this ridiculous journey, all forced themselves to stay awake that night until I got a new PB, considering I was certain a sub 202 was possible tonight. But after hours and hours of failed attempts, this is how the call started to sound.
Hamburger.
You did- Fuck!
Oh my god.
No! I'm gonna kill these guys!
Really want a piece of fucking cake, man. Can you just get a fucking PB already? Wahoo! Woohoo! Explain Beyblade to me in basketball terms. What if your ghost just randomly stops?
That would be cool. What if I just randomly fucking hit a fence?
Can we put that spinning... If you win this one, can we put that spinning fish gif in your video?
Yep. Wish granted.
Actually, we should do it all. Right, so it's the MLG thing. Can we get Snoop Dogg? Is that allowed?
What, the smoke everyday gift?
Yeah. Can we get like default dance?
Yeah. What skin?
Default. You getting the PB in this one?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Dude, I
all
fucking touched the tree.
Oh, you know what you need to do? You need to put like Subway Surfers and like Temple Run like in the corners of the video, and you need the Markiplier jingle gif as well. Ham.
Hold on.
Ham.
Please.
Ham.
No.
Look at
that.
Oh my god.
And then it finally happened.
9, a quirky and interesting number. No. Number 6, a handsome number that is divisible by both 2 and 3. 2, a prime number and an even number known for its versatility. I love AI overview. Yeah, number 6 is handsome and number 9 is quirky. Oh yeah, number 5,
come
a
on,
foundational number.
Please. Oh my
Hamburger!
god. Yes.
Nice.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna sleep now. Jesus
My
Christ.
fucking number yapping worked. 2 is an even number known for its versatility.
Well, you got two very versatile numbers in that time.
Yeah, this has been a very versatile experience.
I'm surprised you got no 5s because 5 is apparently a foundational number useful for counting. Oh, I love when numbers are useful for counting.
With the world record continuing to update with even more precise tricks and movement, I again was willing to step away from my initial goal of making it to the leaderboards and had only one final goal for this day: to score myself a sub 202. I was only a 1/10 of a second away from that goal, but it was still quite the daunting task that I was unsure if I was even going to achieve with so little time remaining and with my limited skill level. However, I decided to finally give one more new trick a go to shave off that time, and that trick would be snaking. Snaking is where you drift from left to right as quickly as possible to get a bunch of mini turbos that is just ever so slightly faster than simply driving in a straight line, and it's performed by everyone on the leaderboard right after the final turn of the lap going into the next one, even since the very beginning. And whilst I've given this trick many attempts throughout the week, I was never successful in actually making it faster than driving without snaking. But after thoroughly watching how others were able to pull it off, I eventually started to get the hang of it. If I managed to get an orange drift after the mole segment turning left, then drifted to the right in this crevice and buffer a trick on the slope, and then perfectly start drifting to the left on the straight, with the right timing, this was very so slightly faster than what I'd been doing previously. And over the course of 3 laps, I think it'll finally be enough to beat my goal. There was probably a good 3 or more hours that followed this new trick I learnt, and I definitely had some crash out moments after fumbling a couple of times, but then this happened.
Aurora is very pretty. I personally really like the pro racer outfits. I think they're very cool.
The Pro Racer ones are really good.
Come on, oh, please. Yes! Oh, yes!
Oh,
I fucking did it!
Did you get more?
Yeah!
Did you get more?
Oh my
Nice.
god!
He did.
Finally! I did it by 0.008 milliseconds. Oh, fucking seconds.
God damn.
Oh my god!
Let's go. I'm the fucking mimic. Oh yeah,
My name's the fucking mimic, oh yeah.
Shut up.
Now, I may not have gotten world record, but I was more than satisfied with my valiant effort I put into this challenge, and I at least managed to beat my personal goal. Thank you all so much for watching me go through this crazy journey, and don't forget to try out my new Fortnite map competition. If you want to see more Mario Kart World or Switch 2 videos, just let me know in the comments below. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you all so much for watching.